You in the shower too, eh?
I just got out, man. The shower thoughts are flowing.
That's what I'm saying. You know what that means, right?
Obviously, I know what it means.
It's time to shower the audience with these thoughts.
I'll meet you at the communal shower right now.
See you there, bud.
Alright, bless. Easy.
Shower's packed today.
Yeah,
The shower's... Hey, we color coordinated for the shower today.
Yeah.
Everyone's repping
Didn't even plan
maroon.
it.
We go to McMaster.
I think.
Oh, you go to Mac.
Yeah, I go to.
You and I are rocking the Mac style.
Yeah,
You're just rocking plaid, red, maroon.
Red for the Raptors. Who
Big,
won yesterday?
yeah, today's June 14th, and that means yesterday was Big Dub.
Mr. Kawhi.
Kawhi Leonard.
Mr. Kyle.
Big day.
Mr. Spicy P.
He was mild for most of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
To be honest, he was mild the whole game.
He's
He didn't
a
do
mild
much.
dude, but
Yeah.
spicy enough, man.
Yeah,
Dude, for my palate, I'll take it.
He's a mild dude, but sometimes
Yeah.
he's a wild dude.
Yo, Spicy
And
P,
that
you
gets
trying
my mood.
Spicy P, you trying to reach the shower with us?
Spicy P.
Like,
Spicy P,
If you're watching
If you're watching,
let us know. Kawhi, we prefer you, obviously.
he's a fun guy.
Yeah,
He's
he's
a-
a fun guy. Awful.
Okay, so today
Queso.
this is episode 3.
Welcome back to Shower Thoughts. I guess we should say what this is.
Oh,
Podcast where we talk about what you think about in the shower, other than me and Sharif. My name is Saif.
Sherif, your 2 hosts, and today we're joined with Cesar as our main guest. Jay's
the only important guest today.
and-
I'm just here for show.
Actually, he's drifting out of
Thanos
existence.
snap.
Yeah, I don't feel so good.
Mr. Stark. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good.
But again, just like the last episode with Jay happened, I was working out with Jay and I told him we were having Cesar over and we are going to talk about mainly the subtle art of not giving. We're not cussing, are we?
Well,
An
it's
F.
good. I want my
Definitely not.
1-year-old nephew to watch this.
Okay, the
Exactly.
subtle art of not giving a F.
What's the F stand?
Yeah, what does the F stand for?
Fun.
Fun.
Don't ever give a fun. If I see you give a fun,
Honestly, fun
Fudge.
that.
Don't give a fudge.
don't give a
Fun
fun.
that.
But
Yeah.
I was telling Jay about it, and Jay again started saying stuff that sounded philosophical. So I was like, Jay,
Yeah.
reach the shower, man. It's a tight shower. Like we're literally like
Yeah,
all
Jay,
playing
Jay
footsie
knows
together.
a lot about nothing. So
A lot, yeah. Nothing is impossible.
Yeah, but tight shower. We're all playing footsie here.
Yeah.
But
Pretty good. We got pretty close to it.
yeah.
But hey, Cesar. To the folks, because you know I don't know you that well, but what do you think?
You
is
actually
like-
don't. Like
I
we
don't.
planned this 2 hours ago.
No. Okay. Nice.
Let's not
I
emphasize
bumped
how
into you
we're-
until
Yeah,
That's
well,
too
yeah.
much.
Straight up this morning, I was like, "Hey, are we doing
Okay,
it
let's
tonight?"
be
He's like,
fair.
"Yeah, why not?" So here we are.
So like, what's the most important thing to know about you, or what are the like 3 things that are important to know? 3 or less.
Like, who is Caesar?
Who
Well, that's a big question.
who is Cesar? Yeah.
Caesar.
Well, I'm a student athlete, right? That's one of the things that I feel like defines me, right? I've been a swimmer for like pretty much most of my life, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing that like I usually say that when they ask me like what do you do, like I say like, hey, I'm a swimmer, right? So
Yeah.
so that's why I kind of reach out to the Sharif because I want to talk about.
That's how we met. So
Yeah, through swimming, right? So
Cool.
that, you know, like I've always been an athlete. I've always been like I'm an active person. I always like to be moving around, right? But also like, you know, I enjoy like sitting back and, you know, watching a movie. So, you know, that's kind of
Big COD player.
Call of Duty, man.
Which
I
one?
did-
Which one?
I'm playing Black Ops 4 right now.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
Still
alright.
grinding.
Alright,
still
alright,
grinding.
alright.
You're a 2 guy.
I'm a Modern Warfare 2 type of dude. Like
Black
that was
Ops
my
Jam.
Yeah.
that was my jam. Like
that was my jam.
back in the day, like every day after school.
Dude, these
1v1
guys still go,
Rust.
bro.
Yeah.
Guys
Like the
still go,
swimmers.
right?
Yeah, still play from time to time. But right now I'm playing Apex though. I'm not that good, but you know.
Nice, man. And for the viewers, like, what program are you in?
I'm studying chemical engineering and management.
And like your full course load, right?
Yeah, I'm doing full course load
So-
and
So you're like swimming, and you're like good swimmer. I
Varsity,
watched you.
Thanks.
varsity
swim.
masters team.
And full course load engineering, which is already more than the average student. does.
Yeah.
Swimming
Yeah.
in courses and the pool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not drowning.
No,
Which is
lifeguarding
Not-
now.
Yeah. Lifeguarding,
Now I'm a
actually.
lifeguard at the pool, right?
Yeah.
And not frowning. Look at that smile.
That was so creepy.
Look at that smile.
Okay, I wanted it to rhyme.
We know.
Yeah, but like, what's it like being a student athlete? Because this ties into the topic you want to talk about. How, like, sometimes you just want so much out of life, and
Yeah.
crap just comes your way.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has its good and its, the good things and the bad things, right? Like, it comes with like a lot of like satisfaction from like achieving in like school and then swimming, right? But it also comes with like struggles, right? Like sometimes there's times where like you got a really hard workout, you got a lot of assignments due during the week, right? And sometimes just your mind's not there. You don't have the motivation to get up at 4 a.m, go for a swim, go to classes, do the projects, right? And yeah, those are the times where like it gets tough, right? And that's why I kind of reached out to Sherif to like talk about that, right? To talk about resilience and how like we all see resilience differently, right? We all have our own definition, and it's important to like remember about it, like remember it, right? Remember those things that help us get through like difficult situations, especially when we're going through a difficult situation, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like.
So how would you say you found resilience? Like, do you think how would you say like your journey on becoming more resilient? Because you have to be resilient to be in engineering and be a varsity swimmer.
Yeah, and like the
So.
cool thing about this is like it applies to anyone. It's
Yeah.
not just
Yeah.
student athletes, because everyone isn't just doing their job. Like, their job doesn't define it. Everyone's got like more than one thing going.
Yeah.
So this is why I think this is super beneficial. Not just like, I'm sure people that aren't student athletes are gonna take something out of this.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the way I see it, right, is that for example, at the beginning of my second year, right, which is
What year are you in right now?
I'm going into my third year.
Nice.
So, I mean, I'm just talking a little bit of like my first 2 years of like being here at Mac, right? So my first year, like everything was new, right? Everything was exciting.
The transition.
Yeah, the transition, right? Like not gonna lie, like I think I managed pretty well. Like I did well in swimming, I did well in school. Like I think I found my group of friends, right? And then second year came around, right? And I was a bit like kind of trying to do the same thing, right? Trying to have do well in school, do well in swimming, right? And I kind of try to take the same approach, right? Just maybe taking things like, I'm the type of person who gets like really stressed out about things, right? Like I worry too much, I overthink, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if that's working, then maybe I should just keep doing it, right? Big mistake, right?
That's like a short-term thing, like stress, get it over. But
Yeah.
Oh, it works. Yeah. Keep
works.
hating everything.
just start twitching. Like, people hang out with you and you're like, Saf, you've been twitching lately.
You've been screaming too much.
It happens.
It does, right? And then what's it called? Yeah, something that like kind of made me laugh about it. I was like, I went home right during exam season of first year, and first semester, second year.
Yeah.
And my brother was like, yo, you know how like people have like resting bitch face? So you got like resting like super stressed out face. And I was like, oh damn.
Yeah.
Right? And
Dude, I noticed that about you. Now that you say that, like, some days you
Wait.
just come in, cause I was like the swimming field there during your second
Mhm.
year. So like I'd see you come in and you're just like when someone just looks done with their life, like something's wrong.
Done with
Oh my God.
Is it like
Oh, are you alright?
no, I'm good.
not in that sense? I mean like just
but
jacked,
Right.
like
Yeah. Life is hard.
life's
Like life's just like
jacked up
beating
on
Yeah.
life.
you up.
Jacked up on life.
In a
Just-
bad way.
Yeah.
In a bad way.
Yeah.
I guess that could be
No,
good.
to go.
But no, totally. You come in, zero energy. You know when you ask someone how you doing, they say they're good, but you absolutely know
But
that.
like they're- but like the
I
eyes
see
are
that. Like I hate
Yeah, yeah.
Now, when you said that, I was like, yo, I can see this resting, stressed face.
Yeah, right. And honestly, like I went through like just thinking about that, right? Like how like, well, I got all this like responsibilities, all these things, like all this all my obligations, all things that I gotta do. That's always in my mind, right? Like
Yeah.
everything that I have in my mind is
Like what went through your head, like specifically? You wake up in the morning, like what's the first thing Cesar thinks of their day, like of his day, like during this stressed out period before you'd say you found resilience?
So, for example, like even at the beginning of my second semester, that's kind of when like things started to go down for me, I guess. I would wake up in the morning and just kind of, I was like, I don't want to do this, right? Like I was just getting through my days, like
Yeah.
I just have to do this because I have to, not because I want to, right?
And you love this stuff, and that's the part that sucks. That like you love, so you're just
I
saying
do.
that.
I do love swimming, right? And I do love what I study, right? Like I would go to my classes or I would study. I'm like, wow, this is great, right? But it came to the point where like I liked it, but I wasn't enjoying it, right? And then like slowly I started to like stop caring about it, right? Like I started like I struggled to like get out of bed, right? Like I'll wake up in the mornings and just like be like, yeah, I'm not gonna go to class, like it's not worth it, right? Like I couldn't focus, right? I don't know, I slowly started to like let things fall apart, right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like oh like well like things suck because life's unfair. No, it's just like I actually, you know, like I let things fall apart, right? And then, you know, the end of second year came around. I got my grades back. They weren't that great. Like I came back after like our championship meet, and like I was like, well, I didn't perform like I wanted to, right? And I kind of had this week where I was just kind of I went home, right? I was supposed to take like a spring course to try and get ahead for next year, but I was like I can't keep going. I was like, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Right, like I need to take a step back.
This
right?
is like recent, right?
Yeah.
It's like this spring you're talking about.
Yeah. So like this last like 2.5 months, right? Because like I started seeing things even during the semester, right? Like started seeing like, oh well, maybe I'm taking like a different approach, right? Maybe I should like, you know, think differently, take a different approach, right? And so yeah, when it comes to like resilience, right? I don't think there's like an equation to it, right? I don't think it's something like, okay, well, I think I found it, right? It's more
boom, found it.
Yeah, right. It's more about like, you know, we have like, you know, our setbacks, right? For example, for me, it was the realization of like, just like, well, I think I'm wrong, right? I don't think I'm enjoying this. I don't think I like it. I know I love it, right? But I'm not enjoying it, right? Right. So
the difference between loving it and enjoying it.
Yeah, right. Because like I'm passionate about it, right? I'm passionate about what I study.
Do you think it's like loving the end goal? Like I find that people think success is like a destination, and you're like, oh, I love the idea of being an engineer. I love the idea of being like a well-accomplished swimmer, but like it's a process.
Yeah.
Like the engineer is the person who's practicing engineering, like studying engineering. The accomplished swimmer is the one who's in the pool all day or whatever. So do you think it's maybe your expectations of what it should be that make you enjoy it or love it, like accepting the fact that to be this I need to go through the process? Or do you think that it was just you telling yourself that you could do more than you could, in a sense that you would always stress yourself and be like, it's a phase, once I'm over this phase, like I'm gonna be at that destination, but realizing that it was a constant process. It's not a success isn't a destination, it's a path.
Yeah, so like definitely that's how I saw things, or maybe even a little bit right now, right? That's kind of one of the change that I kind of wanted to like talk about, right? So like that was my experience, right? The whole like I wasn't enjoying things. I was trying so hard to do well that I didn't do well because of it, right? And like you said, I was focused on like getting the good grades, being number one in the pool, going personal best times all the time, right? Yeah. And for example, the book that we just mentioned, right? Yeah. So it said something about the reason I really liked it is because it's kind of like it kind of brings you to reality, or shows you a bit more about reality, how like, and it does talk about that. It says like people fall in love with the idea of like winning, the idea of the perfect job, the perfect relationship, right? And maybe instead of saying like, oh, I want this, like this is what I want, I want to be this like the top employer at this company, right? What instead of, we should ask ourselves like, well, what do I want to struggle for, right? Yeah. That's like a better question than like, what do you want to be? It's like, what are you willing to suffer for, right? And that's kind of like that kind of like hit me back, like I don't know, just kind of like hit me in the head, and I was like, wow, like that's true, right? Like, am I actually willing to like go through like all this pain, like the early mornings, like the long study nights to get there, right? And for example, for me, like I thought about all things. So I thought about, hey, maybe university is not for me. Maybe I should drop out, find something else. Swimming, I thought about, hey, maybe it's time to like let it go, right? And maybe
Hope coaches and listening.
And like I felt guilt about it, right? I was like, wow, am I actually giving up?
Yeah.
Right? And it wasn't about giving up, but it was kind of realizing what I wanted, right? Kind of how, like, what I want, for example, out of swimming, right? I'm right now, for example, I'm less focused on trying to be number one. I'm more focusing on enjoying it, right? Doing it for my own health, right? I still have my goals that I want to achieve, right? I still there's like times that I want to go, right? But like, it takes a bit of the stress out of it, right? Well, not a bit, like it takes a lot of the stress out of it, right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like people say like, oh, you're an athlete, like probably like going in the pool, or like if you're like, for example, like a track athlete, like you go on the run and you get like all your stress like from outside, it just goes away. But it's not really, right? Because being like a high performance athlete also brings like stress and brings a lot of like complications to it, right? So at least for me, it was like well, I sat down and asked myself like, well, do I actually want to like do the early mornings? Do I actually want to put up with like the difficult workouts, right? And I sat back and I was like, yeah, I think I do want to, right? This is something I want, right? I've been swimming all these years, right?
So do you think it was like this reframing process in your head was identifying the connection between the struggle and the goal, as opposed to being like prior to this phase, like when you said you were stressed and all, you were kind of like, you just saw the goal, but it was kind of ambiguous how the suffering you were going through was related to. You just forgot that this leads to that. You can't get there without that. And realizing that, do I want that bad enough to put in with the struggling now that I know they're connected? Would you say that's like a fair way to say?
Yeah, I guess. For example, like I like to think about it as like we're in a boat, right?
Yeah.
And you know where you're going, right? There's like a clear view where you want to go. Like you got your map. You got your map, but it's an empty map, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And you just gotta find you gotta find your own way back. You gotta find your own way to the destination, right?
Make your own edits.
Yeah, make your own edits, right? So like, for example, like I have this like Instagram account where like I like to like share my thoughts, right?
Hey,
yeah, you've seen it, right?
We'll plug that at the end.
Right? Right? And like one of the things that I like mentioned, right, is about like kind of stop like sitting around and like wishing or just only picturing the end goal, but not picturing the journey, right?
So in terms of the boat, how's
just making, like, for example, like make a plan, right? Because for example, for me it was not just about like training hard, right? But it was about like, well, focusing on my technique, on focusing on doing stretches, or focusing on going to therapy when I need to, right? It's not about just like struggling. It's about like being smart about it too, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so like you said, it's like, well, there's the end goal, right? Now that I have a better idea of how it, like the journey is connected to it, yeah, am I willing to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's still a question. I mean, I don't think there's always like there's not like a definite answer, right? Like
it changes like throughout the day, different day.
Yeah, right. We all sometimes you feel more motivated than the other days, right?
Yeah.
I think so. I read that book as well, The Subtle Art.
Am I the only one that did read this thing?
Yeah.
Fudge. Yeah. Well, you don't read.
Do you
know how to read?
What does that say right there?
Follow.
There's no
shower thoughts.
There's no.
Oh, it does say that. Oh,
yeah.
Good job. Great. So this book, I don't know. I'll read it to you one day.
It'll be a bedtime story.
Yeah. So I think the book, like one of the main ideas of it is just in the title in itself, but the book's not about not giving a fun. It's more about what do you choose what you want to care about, right? Like choose those things. And those things should stay constant, like in terms of it's almost like a value. I'm reading this other book that's more about like understanding what your values are.
Dude,
Because your
you read
values.
behind my back, bro.
I'm so sorry.
Like, I'm trying to go up. I'm trying to like progress my philosophy and knowledge.
Hey man, like I take this seriously. I don't know about you.
I keep going. My bad.
Yeah,
I just, like,
come
I
on,
didn't
man.
see this coming.
You know what? Use your resiliency. Picture you're on a boat. It's not about the end.
That's
it's about the
quick.
journey,
That's
man.
quick application for
Yeah.
Boom.
man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all
yeah.
right.
You can write your own map still. It's still empty.
Right.
Yeah.
So the book. Oh. That's
Actually, we have to end the
We're-
podcast. Sorry.
That was good.
Okay, wait. Let me finish my thought.
Yeah, sorry.
So,
Go ahead.
understanding your values. I think that is never. People don't tell people to do that. They say make a goal and follow that goal. And I think that is a very. It's a micro kind of thing to do. It's like, oh, I want to do this. I want to get like an A on this exam, or I want to like.
Checklist.
It's a checklist. It's a to-do list,
Yeah.
right? And you can complete that stuff. But a value is everlasting, and like it applies to every situation. So for like swimming, for example, or for any sport, if your value is that I want to be healthy, for an example, right? Then you're not going to do the things that would make you unhealthy. Like you're not going to push yourself to the point of injury because you care more about health. You're not going to care about as much as the competition because health is more important to you.
You'll
If you
miss the morning practice if you're on like 2 hours of sleep.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
If you're not feeling
well, that seems kind of.
Like long term wise.
Yeah. Okay.
what you think that's weak?
I
That's
think it's a little.
it's a little bitch league.
He's like overtraining.
No, but yeah, like I think like understanding those and like questioning yourself, like what is actually important to me?
Yeah.
Because when you have that, then your decisions are so much easier. You know, like when you have your like say like you have 4 core values, like I'm gonna be a good friend. Whenever my friends need me, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be a good family member. When my family needs me, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be a good coworker. Like I'm gonna make job like working.
Oh, you're a people person, eh?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
We haven't
be.
heard the fourth one yet.
And I'm gonna be an amazing.
Oh.
I'm gonna be the best dancer that I know.
Okay, well,
Oh, these are my values. Okay.
These are yours.
Yeah.
I'm just pretending that I'm
Yeah.
you, right? So if those 4 things, like I know that those 4 things, like will always take precedence over everything else. When I make a decision, like whether I go out or I go to like my brother's birthday party, like I know what my values are, and that decision's made for me. But if like school and like doing well in school is one of my values, like I can make decisions so much easier when I understand that.
Dude, that is so true. That like
Yeah.
hits home with me so hard.
definitely.
Like looking back at my undergraduate degree, there were nights, like again, it comes down to values. For me, it was do well in school was definitely one of them, and then have close relationships with someone. And one of the things that I love that it's a value of mine, and I think like a lot of things I view positive in my life, I attribute to this value specifically is enjoying the process. Like always want to be like, I want to enjoy the process. Even if this is my goal and it requires me doing some bunch of stuff that I wouldn't enjoy, either I find a way to like create my own path or go a path less traveled by that lets me get to that goal but still enjoy the process, or there's something wrong with that goal because like my idea is
Like
the one fact sounds dark, but you're gonna die one day.
Well,
The thing is,
you guys might. I'm gonna live forever.
however, big uncertainty that comes with that, you don't know when. So imagine setting a goal, like for example, you say like swimming, I want to be the best swimmer in the world, but if you don't enjoy the practices and stuff, like you're working towards a goal that's not 100% in your control because you don't know what John over there is doing in the pool every day. So if you're working, yeah,
I don't know
John,
what he's doing.
John, nice stroke, John.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? That you're working towards a goal that you're not guaranteed you're gonna achieve. And if you're doing something you don't enjoy, like what if you die like 4 years from now before you ever achieve that? Like laying on your deathbed knowing that you're about to die and you're like, well, I never got to do the stuff I enjoy because I was working towards that status of success.
Yeah.
But like for me, true success is enjoying friggin' pathway.
That's a good way to see things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks,
like
man.
yeah, like
Like that.
honestly, like for example, like I was talking about, right? Like just gonna, yeah, there's things that definitely like what you just said, right? Like I was like, yeah, like well, like what if I like in the next 5 years I go like, well, I didn't really enjoy this, right? I put so much effort, but I actually didn't actually enjoy it, right? So yeah, I think it's a really good value to have, right?
Yeah.
So do you think like
Wait, what just happened?
is it full or
Is it?
dead?
Dude, it died. It never got to the end goal.
Oh, dude, we're
Did
good.
you enjoy the process?
Wait. I'm gonna do another clap.
It's alright.
How am I gonna do this? This is gonna keep
Move the
going.
mouse. Move the
Oh,
mouse.
got it. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened to the GoPro.
John must have done something.
Yeah.
John.
Stop getting water on everything.
John is splashed. Man, John in the pool.
I swear, John's like a magic carp. All he does is splash around just wherever he goes.
Where were we, however?
Solid Pokemon.
We're talking about like enjoying, right?
Enjoying
Yeah.
the process.
So
Enjoying the
that
process,
I
right?
think ties into your cores as well. So for
Mhm.
example, I was saying that my core values were school, enjoying the process. I get it, like enjoying the process. I think
You can
should
apply
be a
to
part
lot
of
stuff.
everyone's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
part of everyone's values. Could be wrong, but I personally think so. So for me, it's I want to do well in school and get into like my dream program or whatever, but I want to enjoy the process, and that keeps me like, because like people will ask you, like, come do this. There's infinite opportunities around you, and the more you say yes, like being a yes man, although like it opens up opportunities you weren't aware of, if you are so firm in your values and they start interfering with your values, like you should say no. If you rethink things and be like, well, what's the path that I want to take, like what's important to me, what will make me enjoy it, then you'll be able to say no, like I don't want to go out that night. And it's finding the balance again, that you want to work towards your lifelong goal, and that's the long-term planning, but you also want to have fun in the short term and enjoy the process. So it is okay to go out like once every couple of weeks or something, as long as you're still working towards something long term. Because on the other side of what we were just discussing, like say you actually do live a long life and you didn't know that, you were living that like 100% YOLO life. Like, what if I die tonight? I'm gonna party, like I want to be with my friends or whatever, and then party, and then you get to the age of like 70 or 80 and you're like, I did nothing with my life.
Yeah.
Like I had no impact on the world. And like it is a basic human need to feel like you have purpose.
That's the last of Erickson's stages.
Mm.
Like when you get to old age.
Self-actualization.
Yeah, Eric said, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
no, that's Maslow.
Who the flip's Eric?
Well, it's similar, right?
Well,
But you know what I mean? I think it's
But yeah.
finding the balance.
It's finding
And-
definitely finding balance.
And like those two
Definitely.
things should be a part of everyone's mental plan, because it helps you be like, you're less stressed.
yeah.
Like I think with your thing is that you could just look at it and be like, I could say no to that. I'm working towards my
Yeah,
goal.
of
Or you
course.
could be like, hey, I can stop because I want to enjoy the process and I can take a break. I don't have to go to that morning practice because I want to enjoy the process. And
I
me
think-
going morning is just gonna make me hate it.
I'm crying.
What's it called? Yeah. So one of the things I kind of like wrote down, right? So once I started like reading and I started like when I sat down and kind of like started like analyzing things and reflecting on things, right? I wrote things down in a journal, right? That I've been
Nice,
like,
man.
yeah, right. So
It's a habit I want to get into.
it's really good. It takes effort to like get into good habits, into those kind of things, right?
Like kind of like a gratitude journal.
Yeah, right. Like I don't write on it every day. It's just like, for example, I put myself like at least twice a week to write something, anything, right? In like maybe like, oh, so this is some of the things I did get this week, or some of the mistakes that I made this week, or where can I move from here? What decisions do I have to make in the near future? Kind of those things, right? It just helps see. It's like I said, right? It's like planning out, right?
Yeah.
It's just taking the small steps. So one of the I've been trying to like come up with like a phrase for that, right? Because I've thought about like, well, like, the balance between like having fun and taking care of like what we need to do, like our responsibilities, right? So like I put this on the front of my journal. It says it's flow with responsibility, right? And it's that being able to enjoy.
Flow with responsibility.
Yeah, so like it's like being able to enjoy what you do, right? but also be mindful of the responsibilities that you have, right?
Yeah.
Because we all have responsibilities. Like
True.
it's not like it's not like for example, you want to do well in school, right? Well, like that comes with responsibilities. You want to be a good like family member, that comes with responsibilities too, right? It's and it's also because and the book mentions about like, you know, what if like I make a mistake, right? What if I do something and what if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's all about well, I need to be responsible for my actions, right? But you don't want to forget about you don't want to get like hung up on the all the bad things that you do. Like all you think about is like, oh, this is my responsibilities and these are all my obligations. So that's where the flow kind of comes in, right? Kind of being able to enjoy, and it's like it's a balance, right? Being
Between
able
the long term and short.
yeah, like being able to like enjoy, right? Take the time to like sit back and relax while keeping up with the things that you need to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that like also ties into a thing of like the 100% YOLO option. Like we spoke about the two extremes.
Mm-hmm.
If you go the 100% YOLO option, like you said, everyone has responsibilities, whether that's like family members, job, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're always like, well, I'm gonna die tomorrow, let me make the most of today, you probably won't take care of your responsibilities because you're like, it won't matter, I'm gonna die. And then there will come a point where that starts stressing you that you didn't work towards your responsibility, and then you could get caught up. Like you see that a lot in university. The people that are like, I want to enjoy the university vibe, and they look down at the person who's putting in work towards their goals because they're like, what if you die tomorrow? Which is valid, but they're on the extreme side of it of what if you don't? Like you have responsibilities.
Yeah.
Like you gotta like get a job, contribute to the community. You gotta like take care of a family in the future potentially. So that ends up adding stress to your life, and you see it all the time, like the people that didn't work hard in first year because like the transition period, they're like, let's party or whatever, and then second year they start stressing, they're like, I gotta get my marks up or whatever. I didn't think about second year. It's that mentality of like, I might not make it to second year, but you did.
I'm gonna post something crazy.
Oh no.
There we go, wild idea. Here we go.
We actually ran out of time.
Take it.
So sorry.
That was on. But I think we as like even with the YOLO lifestyle of I don't care, I'm gonna die tomorrow, I feel like there's still some validity for responsibility, because I feel like
that rhymed. This is gonna be this is like facts
there's
because
some
it
validity,
rhymed.
responsibility, because humans feel like they got anonymity.
Oh.
Trying to find identity.
Hey, bars. I would drop the mic, but it's expensive.
Well, it's on my student guys, so please don't.
Fair enough. Okay, cool.
But what I'm trying to say is that I think humans enjoy responsibility. Like I think even if I think I'm gonna die tomorrow, I'm still gonna do my responsibilities, which are based off of my values, because achieving those and like being dutiful to those responsibilities will like make me happy. And I think that's true for a lot of people.
I don't think so, actually. I think what you're saying is true.
Oh,
I think, and it's important to you.
Yeah.
But I think what like off what you're saying, like people, if someone like tells you that you're gonna die next week, like people will just have fun and they'll like live their life.
Yeah.
I think like it would be better if people went off of their values and like did stuff based off their values, because you hear it all the time, like, oh man, like we're in university, like you have to have fun, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I going like through university, I heard that all the time, like you have to live your life, you have to have fun. But but I think it's I think it's
what just happened.
I think it's because people don't question what their values are. Like I feel like people are like, I want to have fun. Like that's why they're conflicted.
Like why do I want to have fun?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, and what else is important?
Is it to forget about your responsibilities because it stresses you out thinking about it?
Maybe.
Like you talk about like, if you identify the connection between your goal and like the process of getting your goal, and then you get intimidated by it, you're like, I need a distraction. And like people will like pick up their phone or go out, forget about that stuff. Do you think that's what it is?
Possibly. And I think that's where resiliency comes in. And I think resiliency is completely...
We went here, and then Saif just broke.
Just reel it back, you.
Well done, man. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Well done.
Of course.
But like, let's see if he actually does well. Moment of truth.
See the connection.
I mean, he signed up for the race, but can he run it?
Yeah.
No, okay.
He's
So
weak. I'm just sweating.
Is that vomit on your soda
That's my
already?
mom's spaghetti.
damn
He's
it.
nervous.
Oh,
Wow, we should just turn this into shower wraps.
shower up. And we make sandwiches.
Yeah,
of
with the
course.
Raptors.
Yes.
Shout out to
What?
Spicy
Spicy.
Resilience.
Resiliency. So, just going back all the way around, right? I think so. Going from Caesar's story of like he had this rough year and then he had to like sit back, kind of think about okay, like why am I doing this? What's important to me? And he figured out your values. And when you understand your values, when you come across these hardships or hard times, your values will push you through and keep you resilient because you know that at the end of the day, these values are unwavering. Like no matter what happens in your life, you'll keep. Like you'll
For the most part.
For the most part, right? Like they'll change throughout life, but like deep down, like a few core values might shift a little bit, but like those core values will push you through. So if your value is I want to do well in school, or like I want to see my full potential academically, like if you have that value and you like remind yourself of that value when those opportunities to go out, people are like, oh come on, like you only live once. You have that value within you. You're like, I do only live once, and I'm gonna use my life to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because doing
So-
this will make me happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, I think in my perspective, I think values are very much tied to resiliency.
I think I agree.
Yeah,
That makes
I
sense.
think they do push you to like you said, right? It makes things, it makes making choices easier, right? Like you said, like, well, I want to do well in school. Well, do I go out or do I study because I have a test? Like, well, it makes it. No, I want to do well in school. If I'm like sure about what I value, then yeah, it will. You'll choose studying that night over going out, right? And like you said, right? It's a difficult situation, right? Because you do want to have fun, you do want to see your friends, you do want to like relax a bit, but like right now, it's the time where like you gotta remember your values, right?
Yeah.
So your values are like what pushes you to like make the difficult situation, right? Make the difficult choice, right?
Yeah. And how do you think that's changing you in the future? Because we started this story about like you struggling like student athlete and like just wanting to stop. How do you think Cesar realizing all of this changes Cesar's next steps, or currently even? Because like you messaged me over the summer, and when we put up the first podcast, you're like, yo, I love this. I've been reading books or whatever, and it sounded like it was all new to you. You're on this path, and it's like you no longer have that resting stress phase.
What's it called? So like I said, it's for me at least right now. Like
We gotta wrap up. I think they're about to kick us out. But yeah,
Okay,
who's
so-
Cesar now?
Shower wraps.
so at least for me right now, it's not that I don't feel like I have a complete answer. For example, what resilience is for me, or what it means to me, or I still don't have a clear view of like how I'm gonna get there. But for example, right now I know that I want to start. I'm starting to making a plan, right, and see where that takes me later, right. Always like, even during the journey, right. Keep asking myself, well, like, am I enjoying this? Am I doing this? And at least that's my next step, right? Because I wanna go from being all stressed out all the time to actually trying to enjoy what I do, right? So that for me at least it's that right now, and to like learn, and still learning, right? Always learning, never to like. Because
It's never like, it's not a status.
Yes.
It's a process that
Yes.
you strive for.
And like you said, right?
Like a slope. You're not striving for a level. Like, for example, you could strive for a level but be going at like this rate. You're striving for like like steep slope.
Yeah.
Some Y equals
Yeah, like-
MS plus B.
Yeah. And
Like-
it's infinite. It just keeps
And
going.
that's functional, I'll tell you that.
Damn.
Sorry, I'll see my...
And like you said, right? Like I used like sometimes like I used to see things like, oh, I guess it's just like a rough patch, but it's like it's actually like it's a process, right? Like you gotta be okay with like,
Yeah.
well, I might be wrong, right?
Yeah.
Or I might be right or wrong, but I'm willing to like learn and accept that there's things that I don't know, and there's things where I can improve on, right?
And that's part of the process. You realize if to get to my goal, I need to make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So I think like it's fair to say the biggest thing in terms of finding resilience and working towards the goals that are related to your value, like jump in if you disagree, but I think it's reflecting on your core values, and then using that awareness that you get from that reflection of what your core values are, and realizing, is that a goal I want to work towards, knowing that it's tied to this work ethic or this like process.
Yeah.
Once you are aware of that connection and aware of your values, you're like, is it worth it? Like, am I willing to find the balance between like short-term pleasure and enjoying the process and achieving that long-term goal? Like, if I live till I'm 80, will I be happy with this goal? Does it match my values? But if I die tomorrow, was I enjoying what I was doing day to day?
You gotta have both yeses.
Wow, that was like
You're hyped by your own words.
Well, that's what we're for.
Okay.
I was already crowded.
and go.
So that was Sherif's wrap up
We're
rap.
actually rapping
And now we're gonna take a nap.
in the shower.
It's dangerous.
It is that hour.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think like at the end of the day, like resiliency, you know, is tied to your values, but you find your values through self-awareness. So self-reflection, writing in a journal, like actually like thinking about the experiences that you've been through. It's like going through second year and like having a hard time with swimming. Like you look back, you're like, okay, like what did that teach me about like who I am and what's important to me? So I think like I did that throughout my life, or actually I did that in the last year the most. And I think like this last year I've grown the most and I've figured out my values a lot easier because I've like focused on that stuff and actually try to learn from my life instead of just going through it like you know, just without.
We're gonna.
Sorry,
John.
Hey, come on, he's doing what he loves.
Yeah.
He only knows one move.
Yo, wrap it up, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you
It's
rap.
you. No, I already did my mic drop. It's your mic drop time, bro.
He was in the process.
I was mic dropping, and you picked the mic.
It was John, bro.
You know,
All right, actually, let's give Cesar the last word.
Actually, yeah.
Caesar, share your Instagram handle for the
do some
for that
promo.
page. That
Sharif, when you're editing this, put it right here. Go ahead.
Okay.
And then put the books that we've referenced.
Wait. Let me.
And I kind of want to like flip in like this.
Yeah, I want it to come in, explode, implode, but then find itself.
He's looking up his own Instagram.
Yeah. I forgot the exact name, right? What's it called? Is small underscore and small, very small, spicy. It's my own phrase,
Small
right?
and very spicy.
Small and very
Underscore.
spicy.
Nice.
That's kind of like my signature phrase.
I like it.
One or two sentences.
Yeah.
Advice to the viewers.
The closing remarks.
Well, I think that just kind of like summarize what we talked about, right? How like values are tied to like resilience, and I think one of the bigger things that we kind of talked about was to always try to question, always ask, why, the why
Reflect.
and the how of things, right? So yeah, I think that's something to get out
Boom.
of this.
Reflection.
I'm dropping it.
Oh, man, that's $200.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Can't wait to shower with you again.
Hopefully, we will.
That was a good close.
Wait. Comment or subscribe or
Don't subscribe.
don't subscribe. Just let us know what you want to hear about next. If you want to be a guest, just message us.
At your behest.
Yeah, we obviously accept anybody. So.
This is insane.
Oh,
Thank
don't worry
you.
about it.
Thank you everyone for watching. See you in the next shower. When we shower next, probably not for a while. We don't shower.
As
Well, we
usual.
shower once a week. It's probably unhygienic.